The second Down in the Village pantomime was written in December 1993. I was asked to do a Christmas benefit at London Lighthouse and felt things had moved on quite a way from the original Village Panto piece that I'd written in 1980. At the same time, we were coming towards the end, although we didn't necessarily know it at the time, of the very repressive Thatcher era of the enforced return to traditional values. This piece is shorter than most of the other episodes, but it does bring things a little further on and was the only episode written during the 1990s. So this is The Village Panto, 1993. I remember each December when I was young, there was a treat nothing could beat. Once invited, how excited we all became, till the night we could delight in dame and demon at the Village Panto. The Village Panto, a world of fairy tales, where goodness never fails. Though a nasty villain, Cassie villain, all the more the merrier for the Village Panto. The Village Panto, we'll have a grand old time. So let's pack the church hall and we'll all have a ball at the Village Pantomime. I say, isn't this fun? Oh yes it is. Mrs. Carey from the dairy. I can't seem to get this bloody thing right. It's typical of the way the whole pantomime seems to be going anyway. Last night's rehearsal ended in tears. Little Anita Paragon, Miss Goody Two Shoes, Brian calls her. You know my friend Brian, who has the hairdressers in the high street. He has the salon Highlights, used to be Vitaldo of Florence. I say friend, we live together. He's my, Anyway, the panto's being done in the new Arts and Leisure facility. It's that funny looking new huge building just around from Johnny Palmer's barn. It is finished because them pipes and that are supposed to be all over the outside to show how modern it is. Of course, it's not called the Arts and Leisure facility anymore. It's the Chow Centre after Sir Bramwell Chow. You know Mr. Chow was from the Takeaway and the Video Shop, and they started that chain of DIY mega markets. He's Sir Bramwell Chow now, and he put up extra money for the Arts and Leisure facility. Nice man. It's absolutely fantastic inside, mind. There's this bit at the front of the stage that goes for the orchestra, that goes up and down on a numismatic lift. Not that they'd use it much, but the kiddies really enjoy riding on it before the rehearsals. Apart from little Anita Paragon, that is, Miss Creech's favourite, who says that she's frightened. Anyway, there's that, and the lights, and the lighting board is incredible. It's all run by computers. The trouble is, the only one who seems to be able to use it at the moment and operate it is Nigel Parfit, Pat's 8-year-old. He's a funny kiddie. His sister Melodyne's always fighting with him because he keeps putting the dresses for Cindy Doll on his famous American wrestlers. Mrs. Jones, the editor's wife, thinks she's the star. She said she reckons he's like that because Pat's a single mother now after her husband ran off with Judy Sims from the chemist. They're living over Melton Sudbury way. Pat says Judy's welcome to him. She says he just wants somebody to baby him. And if that's what Judy wants to do, that's up to her. She'd had quite have enough of it. He's a typical male chauvinistic. Pat and Sally, Sally Grovefield, who played Cinderella in the pantomime when we had the unpleasantness. Pat and Sally are starting a women's unconsciousness raising group in the village. I told them that Brian and me have got a new Ouija board, but if that's any help. Frankly, I don't see how Mrs. Jones can say that Pat's Nigel and Melodyne are the way they are because of her being a mother on her own, though. I mean, they were just the same before the dad left. Anyway, we're doing the panto last night. It's Dick Whittington, and it's being produced by Miss Creech, the infant school teacher, been there for years. Blue for the boys, pink for the girls. I don't want to be unkind, but I can't stand her. I can't. Trouble is, I've always been the one who does the music for the panto ever since old Nick Roberts died, so I'm stuck with that. A good old traditional panto, Miss Creech says. Back to traditional values. Well, last night we reached the scene at the Sultan of Morocco's palace. The Sultan's being played by Johnny Yotundi, the black bloke with the ice cream van. Stanall, who's playing Sarah the cook, keeps on making what he says are jokes, but it sounds just like pure racialism to me. I kept thinking the vicar might say something, but you know what he's like. If you said to him that day was night, he'd say, well, I can see your point of view. So Stanall keeps saying things about Johnny being black, and Miss Creech keeps giggling. Oh, now, Mr. Hall. Oh, now, Mr. Hall, does your wife know about the fact that you're wearing your suspenders? And he goes on about being normal. Anyway, everybody's all on stage in the Sultan's Palace. There's Mrs. Jones as the fairy, and Michael Biggleswick, you know, from the new university, used to be the Polytechnic, very arty, who's playing the Grand Vizier. Well, she's managed to get herself standing next to him, of course. She's another one, goes on about traditional values. But look at her and Michael Biggleswick. I bet Mr. Jones wouldn't like to see them up to anything traditional. Anyway, they're all on stage, Johnny Otundi and Mrs. Jones, and all like the chorus, and little 6-year-old Anita Paragon as the native soldier, because Miss Creech thinks that's so cute. And Miss Creech has got them all calling out for Dick Whittington. Dick, Dick, where is Dick? Dick, Dick, we want Dick. Well, eventually, surprise, surprise, they all start giggling. And Stanall looks over towards Brian, who's playing the captain, and his other friend, Charlie, who's playing the mate. And he says something quite unnecessary about sailors, and I thought maybe then the vicar would say something, only he didn't. So I was just about to give Stanall a piece of my mind when Mr. Lovell from the bank comes running on as King Rat with the mask on for the first time. When he makes a bit of a roar, it's a bit feeble through the rat mask. You can tell from the way he's running around the stage that he can't really see through the mask properly. You can tell he can't see through the mask properly because he runs down to the front and falls off into the orchestra. Fortunately, he landed on a pile of spare mats from the gym class, and Mrs. Neat took him off to the Chow Polyclinic. Used to be the medical centre, used to be the cottage hospital. He should be all right in time for the panto. Mind you, his nerves have never been the same since that accident with the dustbin on the first night when we were doing Jason and His Dream Coat by Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. Anyway, in the meantime, old Arthur says that he'll play King Rat. He comes on, gives this hideous laugh, ha 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 ha, and little Anita Paragon bursts into tears and runs off to find her mum. Well, Miss Creech then decides it's time for a break, and I hear her talking to Mrs. Jones about what a sweet kiddie Anita Paragon is, and it's only because her parents won't let her play with computer games and watch video Nazis. Not like Melodine Parfit, Pat's 11-year-old. Well, if Melodine is watching video Nazis, which I doubt, it's with Darren Chow. Now he's back from his first term at Eton, because the two of them have always been inseparable. But Mrs. Jones goes, oh, I do agree with you, Elspeth, the hypocrite. It's time we got the community back to traditional values. Traditional values? We got a woman dressed up as a man so she can show her legs. A man who dresses up in women's clothes in public every Christmas and probably most of the year in private. We've got a fairy who's having an affair, and a long-term affair, with a lecturer from the Polytechnic. And two more fairies who are playing the traditional role of the captain and his mate. We've got another fairy doing the music, like he's been doing for the last 15 years, ever since he took it over for another fairy who'd been doing it for 30 years before that. And we've got an 8-year-old who's capable enough to be running the lights, but is being accused of being maladjusted just because his dad ran off with some woman who was stupid enough to follow some man's ideal of traditional values. Traditional values. The only thing we've got in this pantomime that isn't traditional is a black man playing a black man for the first time. Anyway, that's enough of me raving. I ought to get back to this song. And what would be traditional, of course, would be for you to join in. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever on YouTube, but and there aren't any song sheets. But if I'll sing it anyway, and if you want to join in, you can do. It's the privacy of your own home or somebody else's. At the Village Panto, the Village Panto, a world of fairy tales where goodness never fails. shows. Though a nasty villain, Cassie villain, all the more the merrier for the Village Panto. The Village Panto will have a grand old time. So let's pack the church hall and we'll all have a ball at the Village Pantomime. And that is all we have of Down in the Village from the 90s. This millennium will begin in 2 weeks' time, when the Society is doing one of the great classic productions that they did. It's Michael Biggleswick productions of the Broadway classic Atlantic Overture, you know, by that Stephen Sondheim. It's a kabuki version of Cinderella set in a decaying Broadway theatre over a long summer night, and it goes backwards. So please do join me for the next episode of Down in the Village, live on Facebook in 2 weeks' time on Sunday morning, and after that up on YouTube. If you have been, thank you for listening.